Welcome to the Sports Science Dudes. I'm your host, Dr. Jose Antonio, with my inimitable co-host, Dr. Tony Ricci. If this is your first time listening, hit the like button and subscribe to the show. We cover all things related to sports science and sports nutrition. If you want to email us with any suggestions for guests or topics, our email is sportsciencedudes@gmail.com. That is sportsciencedudes@gmail.com. Now, our special guest today is Ray Longo. He's the owner and head coach of Law MMA, the Law MMA team in Garden City, New York. He's still in New York. We're not sure why. He's a graduate of St. John's University in New York, where he studied accounting, so he knows numbers.
I threw that in, Ray.
Nice.
He's been teaching martial arts for over 35 years, starting in his first school in Mineola, New York. In the early 2000s, he began training UFC fighters as a head striking coach, and has since produced 3 UFC world champions, Matt Serra, Chris Weidman, and Aljamain Sterling, all of who were significant underdogs in their title bout. So that's rather interesting. He's also brought several fighters into the top 5 rankings of the UFC, such as, and I hope I don't kill the pronunciation, Merab Dvalishvili. Oh boy,
that's Philly, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. Better than me.
And Al Iaquinta, who actually gave Khabib a very good fight in that 5-round fight. So that was pretty good.
Loved it.
Also, Ray also has numerous champions in the Ring of Combat, CFFC, the Tough Fighter Series, and Glory. So, Ray, we know you're a busy man, so we're going to pick your brain for the next 45 minutes to 60 minutes, and then we'll let you go.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go, Tony.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start, Ray. I want you to know, and it's something I'm really proud of. It's one of the best friendships I've ever had, and I've been really lucky to know this man, and I mean it. And I could say one thing about Coach Longo. If you heard something bad about him, it's a lie, because when you know him, there is nothing bad to know. He's a great man and a good friend. You know, Ray, just to my left, though, something I want to state right away, how proud I am of this. I have a Nassau County map opened, okay? And with that map opened, I also have a little, the distance there, right? So we're looking at a distance of about 7 miles. And what I'm telling everyone, I'd just like them to know, there are some towns that all touch each other in Nassau County of Long Island. So there's a small legend that's about 5 miles. Now, we have a town called Baldwin, Long Island. That is the UFC champ, Christopher Weidman. We have, which touches a town called Uniondale, UFC champ, right? Aljamain Sterling, which, by the way, touches a town called East Meadow, and that is Matt Serra. And I never knew this, but East Meadow actually butts up a little bit into Northwest Wantagh. So those little towns, okay? From those little towns, everybody, this is small scale. I understand New York has a large population, but this is the crop in which Ray has generated these great athletes from. So within that 5-mile radius, okay, and then Freeport, Long Island, which touches them, almost all of them, where Eddie Truck won with the Tough Series as well, right? Yeah. So in a little area, everyone, I think something that really needs to be addressed early is Coach Ray has done an amazing job. That's a small area to produce 3 UFC world champs, a individual who made the top 5, an Al Iaquinta, and then fought Khabib for 5 rounds, which I don't think in 4 fights they added up to 5 rounds in most of Khabib's fights, right?
On 24-hour notice.
That's right. It was a last-minute notice. Yes. Yep. And then again, some Tough Series and a host of Glory Champ CFFC. So something I think is really a tremendous accomplishment, Ray. And I just like to acknowledge it and want to make sure everyone knows it, because it's done. It's almost like what the Tampa Rays are in baseball, small market team, competitive every year, and produce some champs, really, really great.
So I thank you, Tony. And then to your point, even at the beginning, Jose, there's certain people you meet in your life that really enrich it. And for me, Tony came to this gym at a period of time where he saw the fucking nuts I'm dealing with. So as crazy as Tony is, he was a breath of fresh air to me. Super intelligent. I respect intelligence just as much as I respect toughness. I think they're both great qualities, being a fighter and an individual. But he's so well read and can talk about everything. He just made my life better. So I thank you for that too. And I really do miss him, because we would bounce a lot of stuff off each other. And this thing, it's not really me as the coach. It is a synergistic approach. And I think because everybody lives so close, the camaraderie you get out of there, it's almost like our little Dagestan, like right, that little area.
Great
Like
point.
we're it's something else. And for me, as much as I'm not proud of this, somebody said it the other day, I had a champ in my 40s, my 50s, and now my 60s, which I am definitely not happy about. But it is weird, like every decade. So the only thing I implore to my fighters now, Tony, is please, before I hit 70, give me one more. But I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait till I might not make it. So
you're like the Tom Brady of coaching.
There you go.
I might be the Tom. I'll tell you what. You need consistency in whatever you do, and I think that was one thing I had: consistency. I never wavered on work ethic and what I was doing with the guys, and to hold that for as long as I did, I'm proud. I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, I think you should be, because it's not easy to do, particularly when these athletes hit the elite level. And I think you brought up a great point. I like that analogy of a mini Dagestan. The camaraderie is superb, Joey. It's really fun to watch. These guys, they are living together and pulling for each other in a capacity that is rare. There's these things become challenging at the top, and he has kept that together and that synergy and teamwork really, really well. And something I love, no matter how good you are, if you're a jackass, you're out.
Oh, you're
That's
out.
how he runs that.
Not many.
Yeah.
They're always going to float around, but they don't last long. I agree with that. And, look, I always believed in, the camaraderie. Like a guy could want to win for himself, but when he wants to win for 10 other people, I think it's a stronger bond, and everybody's in there and you could feel it. So there's been certain guys, Tony, that they might have been a little off, but they really wanted to see people do good. And I think that overrode even, you know what I'm saying? Like they were sincerely in there. They wanted to see people do good. There was no animosity, nothing. And that always played a big part with me. So I got to thank a million people. Like I'm not here without Matt, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And, we built something, and it's just been a great ride. And to, guys, to be able to do whatever you want to do and then see what happens, that's a big deal. Like, you get to see if what you're doing works at the highest level. And that part I love. And I don't think that I'm still passionate about what I'm doing. So it's all good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's fun to watch. And Matt Serra, of course, is always fun to watch. And one thing about Matt, I'll just add in, and absolutely, I've watched him, and that would probably just not enough people know this, an absolutely superb teacher too. And
oh yeah.
Not just a great jiu-jitsu practitioner, but superb teacher and coach as well.
He comes from good stock. And that was, even when I basically started training jiu-jitsu with him, back then when nobody knew anything, it was just a well put together system. Like Helio Gracie, if he's the guy that deserves credit, they did a great job for taking that art, making it towards the street. They just did a really good job on that.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask just, one or two more questions that Joey join in with us there too. But I guess then, Ray, because you already hit something really big on the sports psychology side, which I think is fantastic. You don't have them just fighting for themselves. You have them fighting for 10 other people. And that builds a camaraderie and a sense of, I think, pride, that would be different if it was just a me game. You've done an incredible job at that. Would you? Sure, there are a host of different things, but is that a core to your philosophy, building that teamwork and trying to get these guys not only to fight for themselves, but to fight for each other, if you will? I mean,
I think that is the philosophy, but I don't say it like that. I'm saying it now. I just, like Tony, if me and you are really tight, we got a good bond together, and then you're doing something I really don't want to go, but I know it means a lot to you, I'm going because
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't have that bond with you, I'm like, nah, I gotta take the wife somewhere. But no, and I think it's the same type of thing when you're really together with everybody. It's that I don't think you could beat, and that's why I say certain people in the corner for whoever's fighting. There's certain corners that just are going to gel together, and I do believe. The guy's not going in there by himself. He knows he has people that'll die for him. Say if a fight breaks out in the ring, what do you think's going to happen? Everybody's going crazy. You need to know that, you always look, the philosophy always was, raise the guy up on your shoulders when he wins and be a safety net when he loses. So you could, take care of him. And that was always a common philosophy with us.
That's awesome. one thing too, we were interested to know, because you've been, I mean, Matt won what in 2007, and you were training him since what, about 04? Is that right? 05?
I'm gonna say even before that.
Wow. Okay. So
He
we're
might
going
have been. Yeah, I'd have to really go back and look. Even even when he won, or he went to the finals in Abu Dhabi, but basically won. I was training him for that. I was training him, so I had him doing a lot of Thai boxing to get his cardio up for
got
jujitsu.
it.
And in my mind, I was like, I'm sneaking the cardio win because he's going to need the Thai boxing eventually. But I originally pitched it to him. It's a great cardio workout. Use it for your jujitsu, because back then, what you have to realize is that everything was jujitsu. They didn't want nothing to do with striking.
Right.
Remember Hoist, throw that foot jab, grab the guy, drag him to the floor. They thought that was going to work forever. I never
Right.
saw it like that. So I had to do things a little differently. I said, let's do it for the cardio. Then he fell in love with the striking. So it worked out great. And it elevated his jiu-jitsu game 100%, because he was a juggernaut on the mat. Like he'd throw up 15 submissions in a second. Like it was crazy to watch.
I don't think, sometimes I think he's almost underrated in just how great he was and some of the people he beat.
Well, at the time, Tony, anybody from that era, he's not underestimated. Trust me, anybody from that era.
That's what,
that guy was clean. Yeah. He was one of those guys. He was cleaning out a room. And, he went with some, D1 wrestlers from Iowa that, definitely gave him fits, but the respect those guys had for each other after that was unbelievable. So, this is before we even knew the importance of wrestling. You know what I mean? It was like, holy shit, these guys are good. They're coming out. He was great, man. He really, I've seen him torture a lot of people, like good quality people. He was hard to beat, man. The guy beat John Jock Machado. That's like beating Hickson Gracie at the time.
That's insane.
Nobody even wanted to believe it.
Right.
You know the way that goes when you idol somebody.
Yep. One of the guys we know, we'll keep him nameless, but boy, I think he still holds a grudge when Matt rolled him up in like an envelope, didn't he?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, one guy's not coming back. I don't think he's leaving Mexico, but he got choked out in about 20 seconds.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to put one more like coaching and UFC type question in, and then we'll lighten it up, have a little fun too. And Joey's got some good things to talk about. But from your perspective, because you've seen it, what are some of have you had to change because of how quickly this sport is advanced, right? Well, first I should say this, what are the major changes, Ray, that maybe you've seen since, the days of Matt taking out GSP that time and having to train Aljo now? Or the sport changed in anything that is very should jump out at us? Or
yeah, I'm gonna say, Tony, I don't know if I'm answering the question right, but the one thing that had to change is all the research and the science behind CTE. So the way I trained somebody in 2007, I had to go over and go, all right, maybe we should slow down. Or if a guy got hurt, he got rocked one day, I wouldn't put him back the same week, whereas now I wouldn't put him back the same month. I'd make him wait, make sure everything was good. So that was the biggest change, I think, for me. And then, just as the techniques, everybody got better. But I was always surrounded by good guys too. So like I said, I got a lot of help. So, and I get a lot of help today. So it's all good. But I think the CTE thing, you had to really go back. If you were responsible, you had to look at it and say, okay, let me protect the athlete a little bit. And Tony, we come from an era where if you got knocked out in the PBC, they put you back in the next day. It was just the way it was. You could ask anybody. That's the way it was done. And they wanted to see how tough you were. Would you go back in there? And now we know, yeah, you might be tough, but now you're also stupid, because the effects that could have 20 years down the line aren't good. So that's the major thing, I think, for me.
Yeah, great point and observation. It's not even one that was something I would have immediately thought of, but you're spot on with it.
Yeah, we had to go more drilling orientation as opposed to sparring. Yeah, I can go through the whole thing. You've seen what we do down here, but when they go, they go. But you gotta watch it more carefully for sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see anybody get hurt. That would bother me. And it's hard to hold to that, but because there's a fine line between getting the right work in and getting hurt. So And again, as long as you educate people and let them know what the risks are, you're going to have to take certain risks no matter what sport you're playing. So
Exactly.
nothing's for free, right?
Yep.
Yeah, speaking of CTE, because Tony and I, we do a lot of collaboration with the psychology department and neuroscience. If you go from 2000 to this year, how has your approach been from not the training standpoint, but from a nutrition standpoint or supplement standpoint? What have you learned in the last 2 decades as to supplemental things, dietary supplements that athletes can take, maybe to lessen the risk or maybe lessen some of the trauma? Is that anything you've dealt with?
I understand it, but that's more your guys' thing. But I would say like fish oil is very important.
No doubt.
If you got hit, maybe up it to like 5 grams at a shot.
Yeah.
Until you're feeling better. So yeah, I mean, is that where I get it done? I passed that off to Tony when he was here, or I passed it off to whoever. But that would be my nutrition. I think is huge, and you guys know that just changed. It's just always changing. I think we're at a spot now where it can't be changing too much because I think we have nutrition locked down pretty good now. But you guys would know better than me. But I mean, everybody agrees that processed foods are no good for you, and there's a lot of things. Sugar obviously is the devil, so yeah. So there was a book, Jose, I used to have like a physical therapy book. So it had covered all injuries. So this is years ago, this is 20 years ago too. So there was one book, every time you got injured, the first thing was change your diet. And I go, what the hell are they like back then, Tony? I'm like,
that's pretty sharp, Ray.
think about it, Tony. I'm going to say it might be more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I go, what the fuck is that? What is that? Change your diet. And you know what? You get hurt or you have an operation, you lock that diet down. It's gonna make healing a lot better.
Absolutely.
A lot better. So that's a huge thing. Is I think we understand now how important food is as medicine, and I love it. I love it. I lost the weight. I follow. I don't even want to say a diet. I just ate right. It's just the way you have to build good habits on that. But now that book makes total sense to me. Because say I get hurt. What is the first thing I do? I start reaching for yodels and cupcakes and comfort food, right? That's going to make that healing process that much longer. I mean, again, if I'm speaking out of line, just you guys are the scientists. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if you think about it, it's almost common sense today. Back then, I didn't even understand what it was.
That's pretty. I mean, credit to that text for even address nutrition post-injury 20 years ago. That's 100%. Pretty impressive.
They never explained what they meant, but
right.
Change your diet immediately.
Yeah.
They're certainly ahead of their time. I do have sort of a semi-fun, semi-academic question. I mean, Tony and I, we're around 18 to 21-year-olds all day, so we think we're like 18 to 21. Which, when we wake up in the morning,
that's my problem also. That's why
yes.
I'm always.
So there's always a cadre of students that say, hey, I want to work with professional athletes, whether it's the NFL, whether it's mixed martial arts, and they have this idea that that it's a glamorous job. Like, oh my God, it looks like a lot of fun, when in fact, there's a lot of shit you got to do before you even get near a professional athlete. So sort of a 2-part question. How did you get to where you are? Because there are students who are like, well, I want to do what Ray does because what he does is super cool. And also, if there's such a thing as a typical day, let's say if you're training someone for a fight, is there a typical day or is it every day just, balls to the wall?
Yeah. Okay. So the first question is, I want to say off the top of my head, the first question was, it's a new sport. So I was in the right place at the right time, right? I already had a couple of guys that won the gloves. I had guys that were kickboxing champs. So when this happened and people started realizing they need a striking coach, there wasn't many people to turn to. Plus, I was a martial artist, so I understood everything, and I was doing the jujitsu. So for the guys that want to be me, be prepared to work like 18 hours a day. Basically, have to manipulate your family life so you can hold on to your marriage and still do what you like. Not easy, because I'll tell you a story. When Matt for GSP was obviously the biggest underdog in UFC history, and he was getting tortured on whatever social media there wasn't like today, but tortured. And then he went to do a show with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had like a talk show, and he heard Rogan and Dana talking in the back. He's in the green room. He hears them talking about him, saying he's going to get killed.
Oh my God.
When they call him out, Tony, right? He goes, you guys think I'm getting killed? And Rogan like kind of back goes, well, you just opened up another school. I don't know where you're gonna have the time to train. And what they don't know is the time to train was 11 o'clock on Sunday night, right? There was no boundaries. We had no boundaries. We were gonna get the work in no matter when the hell it was. And that's what they're missing. They think everything was based on a 9 to 5 day. And yeah, he's got tools. But no, we're doing what we have to do. We loved it so much. It wasn't like work. We were having a blast, so you have to be prepared to work. For me, that's the way I did it. I had to overdo it probably, right? I'm competitive and I never wanted to be outworked as a coach. And if that meant coming in on Sunday, I was doing it. Maybe to a fault, Jose, maybe to a fault, but everything survived. I mean, I got a great family, so for me, I got lucky it worked out, but navigating those waters isn't easy.
Yeah, I think that's fair because, the way, Tony and I and other faculty are training students is I tell sort of an analogy I give is science doesn't stop at 5 p.m. on Friday. Just because it's Friday doesn't mean that you stop working. A lot of it is it's every day. You got to put in the time. And if you want to be successful, you got to do what you got to do. You can't be an entitled person and think you could just work Monday to Friday and get to where you want to get. So I think the fact that you're putting in 18-hour days,
and that might be an exaggeration, but it definitely was 24/7 for a long time. I'm learning now how to take a little time, and I can't do the things I used to do for sure, but I get a lot of help in the gym, and I think it's actually working out good where I'm on the outside now. I pick up different stuff watching people if I can't get in there and do it. So yeah, but you have to be willing to work. There's always got to be a sacrifice to get to the top level. I mean, even with the fighters, right? They have to put that extra time in. And I just, like, again, maybe because I wasn't the most talented guy or I never fought before, I worked harder. It always motivated me to somebody who I'm coaching against was a fighter. That didn't mean shit to me. I mean, I've definitely been in street fights and did a shitload of sparring. So I just didn't know what it was. Maybe to get in front of a crowd was different, but I don't know. So it was always, I just wanted to outwork everybody.
I witnessed it. You did and still do at times. So.
Yeah, but you saw me at the tail end too.
Yeah.
Like even when Chris, he got that last minute fight, man, he's pushing the car on a Sunday night. I have my daughter come down to babysit his daughter. Yeah. Those are the things you have to do. Like, it's crazy. And that's 9, 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. You know what I mean? That we're outside. He's pushing the car. It was his first UFC fight. And obviously for him, it worked out. But, it goes back to also that when time is the most important aspect. You only have X number of times. So, it's like I give you time. That's a huge thing. It's never coming back. So again, that's part of building that bond. Oh man, the guy's coming out at Sunday night at 10 o'clock. Right. I think, Tony, it had something. I can't
do too. Yeah.
For me, it worked. But who doesn't want to win when everybody's paying that type of price? You know what I mean? It's almost a letdown if you lose. So that's the way I like to do it. But
I think one thing just to note too, in follow up in Joey's question, it could be over glamorized. Boy, there's a lot of heartache in this game too.
Oh my God, yeah, Jose, that's another grab. I was going to actually get there. Be careful what you wish for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
so on days your fighter loses, it's got to be a funeral the next day. It's
basically a funeral. I go with that. It's kind of like going to a wake. We try to minimize those days, but that is tough. It's very tough. So again, it's just as good as it is on the good side, Jose. It's that bad on you got to remember when you have that bond. Yeah, it's not like a guy losing you don't give a shit about. Now you're in there with him. I feel like I lost. That's actually horrible, but again, that's part of the game, and that's what makes you work hard. It makes you go back to the drawing board and go, did I miss something? Did we not do this? Did we not do that? You just keep moving forward, evolving and adding and subtracting, and keep going forward.
Now, what do you think? I was listening to I guess it was sort of a motivational talk. The head coach of University of Alabama in football, and basically saying that to get to a certain level, you got to do what you got to do, and that's what champions do. Now, in the fight game, you'll see a lot of very talented fighters, but there's only a few that make it to the top. And so, what's the difference between those that make it to the top and those that are really good but never seem to break out to that level? Is it coaching? Is it talent? Is it just genetics?
Well, just one saying that comes to the top of my head. I think what you're saying is hard work will always beat talent when talent refuses to work hard. Right? So some guys are talented, it's a curse because they don't think they have to work hard. And I think that's where they get in trouble. And the guy that's not as talented wants to put that work in. That's a problem. That guy's a problem. Like, that's Marab to me, not the most talented guy, but you're not outworking the guy in the room. You're just not. And that if you don't work hard and you got talent, Marab will steamroll you.
That's right.
Now, what do you think of this? That reminds me of guys who are, I call them, they basically have they have one punch power where they know they could knock out 99% of humanity. And so they're like, you know what? It doesn't matter who's in front of me. I'm going to knock you out. But then they meet that one person who's like, whoa, what do I do? Are these individuals that are so focused on that one thing they do well that they ignore everything else? Whereas you have the John Jones of the world who are very good at really everything, which is kind of unusual. So versus, the one punch knockout artist, I guess the best example is Francis Ngannou, but he's left UFC. But is there a mentality there when you meet guys who are like, you know what, I can knock you out? Why do I have to do jujitsu?
Right, exactly. I think you're hitting on something, and you bring up a good point. Francis was that guy. I don't think he's still that guy because Stipe took him down and tortured him. He survived the big punches that first fight. And I think Francis had to go back, but I still think deep down inside, he's probably that guy. And dude, there's nothing worse than when if that guy hits somebody and the guy's still looking at him like nothing happened, that guy could literally derail at that point. That's the other problem. So like I go through this with my guys that hit hard. If they could take it, just keep on giving it to them. Do not get frustrated. Like, holy shit, I just hit the guy with my best shot. He's not going anywhere. Then you start that negative spiral in your head, and then it's too late to get the guy back sometimes. Just be content with beating the crap out of the guy. Some guys could take it. That's it,
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, I've seen fights lost like that.
Right. When you throw your best at him and it doesn't work, right?
Without a doubt. They short circuit,
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've what you've always emphasized, the multifaceted skill and not relying on it. I've seen I've seen it even in the way you speak, but just put that to keep pressing forward. Yeah. And just because what you're good at didn't work the first time, it's still going to win. It can win you the fight, right?
Well, listen, Tony, you got to do it's like I teach you how to do a jump shot. And the first time you go to do it, the guy, he stuffs the ball in your face. You go, hey, Ray, that jump shot don't work. No, the jump shot 100% works. You didn't do it right. That's really, so you got to deal with that too. We know what works. Now you got to pull it off.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, but I was going to say too, like from the perspective of, is there one quality too? Can you find anything, Ray, in these guys? I mean, obviously they're all different. That's another thing that's so amazing about fight sports. You're managing these personalities are nowhere close to each other.
Oh man, that's crazy, Tony. You've been there. You're an expert on. Come on,
I mean,
that's tough.
Right? This is crazy. So everybody assumes, well, here are the qualities of a winner, but they ain't anything alike. And one thing you've done so well is manage the personalities. But I guess if you could find any commonalities between, the guys that you've had, you don't have to go by name or anything. Is it just the hard work, or is there something else that people don't see that they all have?
I think that's a really good question, like really good, because I got those three guys couldn't be more different.
I know them that they're not even remotely close.
I'm take part, and I have to adjust my mindset to each individual guy, which sucks for me.
Right.
We always said that, Tony, too. Like, you got to remember, Jose, like, we're independent contractors for those guys. Like, if you make me the coach of a college team and I could fire guys and I'd be probably a different guy. Maybe it wouldn't work out. But So you have to learn how to really deal with people and listen to them and know what makes them tick and what doesn't make them tick, right? Because they are three different guys and they will drive you batshit crazy. I mean, because again, it goes back to being close. Now, somebody has a problem with their wife. You got to take care of that. It's huge. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I've sent guys home from gym. You're not working out today. You have a trouble with it. Clear up whatever you got going on with your wife and come back because this workout will be shit. You know what I mean? So it's really like my shit was always more mental than physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think with the guys. So, what was that the first question? Or I might have jumped off on that.
No, that was where I was going with that, and because of the differences. And are you able to, because they're so different, what is a potential commonality? I mean, is it just the hard work or do you see something in a mentally?
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to say the common, it's like a cheat of an answer, but I'm going to say there's, in all of those guys' careers, there was a time when they could have lost and they won.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like they know how to make the call at the right time.
Right.
Champions know what to do.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
They can't be taught. And there's guys that are doing good and they come that one time and then they lose and that could start something. So they just know how to win and when to win. And everybody's always dealing with that, where one moment in your life could change the trajectory of what's going on.
Yeah. That's an awesome answer.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. That's what that's what the best do in any given sport, because nobody can be 100% at all given times.
Without a doubt.
The win may be ugly that day, but they get the win.
They get it done. And 90% of the guys don't get it done. Maybe 95% of the guys. But that's what separates the guys at the top, the champions, and the rest of the crowd. They just don't make good calls at the right time. And that would bother me because there's so many talented guys that can't get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the only thing, like when I'm always talking with BMO and stuff, it's the mind stuff is just critical, man. It's got to be in line with the physicality. Yeah. And if it's not, it's always going to be a problem, I think. So, and it's hard to measure that. That's why you got to make guys spar hard. I want to see if they're going to quit in here.
Right.
What do you think a guy's going to do if he quit in sparring? You think he's making the fight? Impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right on the physicalities. I mean, look, the mind we've learned this, right? And Dr. Ray over here teaches a course, sport neuroscience. The mind controls the phicality, period. It either optimizes its ability or it can decrease its ability. Either one. So it's got to be in the right place, and like you said, some guys, they have the resiliency. Everything could be going against them, but they find a way to pull that out. And I think a lot of that is inherent too.
That's right. They got that ability to just, that one or two times where they just do it. Like going up to the top, any of those guys could have been, any fight they could have lost. You know what I mean? And they're not going to be there. And it was always, I don't know. That's the way I look at it. They know how to win. They just inherently know how to win. And I don't know if that could be taught or whatever, but that's what I see as far as a common thread. Yeah. Whatever. And I do think the way they were brought up, because I'll tell you, that's one commonality, is that if I had to pick something, all three of those guys didn't have they had a rough time growing up. They had an older brother that just abused and beat the crap out of them. You had, Aljo comes from 19 siblings.
Aljo's overcome a lot. He has.
That's a kid that's not getting a lot of hugs while he was growing up. You know what I mean? So
what you're saying is you can't be the son of a billionaire.
I think that's going to work against you. I really do. I think so. Because think about it, Jose, you always have something to turn back to.
Right.
You're not crossing the river and throwing away your oars. That's what they have to do. They all put a lot on the line. A lot, Matt will always say he was going to be a security guard. You know what I mean? So, not a security guard like that. I mean, like, sitting at the booth security guard. Even, and then it is what it is, man. So he was desperate to get out of there. I think that helped him. And I think Chris didn't come from, the best, background. It helped him. And Aljo, the same thing. I think that's a common denominator too. You can't be born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yeah.
But you hear like Ngannou talking, like Dana White thinks that guy is afraid. The guy's been through hell. The hell is he afraid? He's already happy. He might be too happy now. That might be his problem. You know?
Speaking of Ngannou and, well, the upcoming fight, I'm sure you've been asked this question umpteen times, so we're going to ask you again. The John Jones Ciryl Gane fight. Obviously, Ciryl Gane presents, well, his size and his speed, the fact that he moves like a middleweight or welterweight,
Yes.
he's heavyweight. I don't know anyone that John Jones's fight previous to this that is similar to that. So, one question, well, it's a two-part question. First question is, who do you consider the greatest mixed martial artist of all time? Is it Fedor? Is it John Jones? Is it GSP? And number two, how do you think a fight like that will, the John Jones Ciryl Gane fight will go, in as much as that Ciryl Gane lost to Francis basically via wrestling, which shocked me as when I watched the fight.
That's a shocker.
Yeah.
So, okay. So fighting isn't linear logic. If A could beat B, B could beat C, right? Because there's too many variables for that. If John Jones doesn't implement his wrestling, he loses that fight. Probably.
If he
doesn't implement the wrestling, you know, but he hasn't fought in a while, and it's a heavier guy, but there is a chance John Jones does what he did to Gustafsson the second fight, just take him down and end it. Because I don't think the other guy's got the ground game to keep up with that. But standing up wise, if John wants to stand up, I think he'll get picked apart and knocked out.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, so you think Ciryl has better stand up, or much better stand up?
Much better.
Much better.
Much better, and he's tall. He's 6'5". He can, and he moves, like you say, moves like a middleweight. John's never faced anybody like that. Anybody that was John's size, like Gustafsson, I thought beat him the first time. I thought Reyes definitely beat him in that fight. Those big guys give him trouble.
Yeah.
So if he can't get that fight to the floor, that's a long night for him. And this guy looks like he's got great cardio too, for a big guy.
Good tank, definitely.
You know, it's got to be a strategical fight on Jones's part, I think. But he is a freak. But and getting back to best guy of all times, I'm just gonna go out not on a limb, but for various reasons, Demetrius Johnson, I think, could do it all.
Mighty
you know
Mouse.
what I mean? I think he could do it all. I think he proved it. He defended that title a bunch of times. I didn't even think he lost to Henry the second time. He definitely beat him the first time. He stopped him. What he did with that Thai boxer and won about a year ago was absolutely beat the guy at his own, not at his own game, but he went around with a Thai boxer who's a killer. And then they did MMA the second round, and he took him down and submitted him. So, what you know,
was that the flying armbar? Was that the armbar?
No. But think of the flying armbar. Who's doing that?
Right.
So if you look at pure talent and different ways to win, I think he's the guy. You know, GSP was a great fighter. Obviously, I got a guy to beat him, but that's always good. But he kind of, you know, would take you down. He was the same guy. I didn't see like a huge evolution in him. Demetrius does it all, man. He could box, he could do jujitsu, out wrestle you. I don't know. He's a different cat to me.
And that's a good call that I don't think we hear enough, Joey, right?
Yeah,
I just don't hear his
Well,
name enough, and is one of the best.
UFC's got the unique ability when you leave them, they rewrite the history books. They just they take an eraser and just erase your name out of it. Poor Frank Shamrock, nobody knows who the guy is.
And a guy who was way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. I agree with you. Way, man, was he entertaining?
The guy was striking, kicking, and rolling. He was doing everything before everybody considered everything.
And totally undersized.
Yeah.
He was fighting that.
I remember he beat Tito, who had like 40 pounds on him at the time.
Beat the crap. He was Tito's kryptonite.
Yeah. And
Tito was
back then, it was like a 185 versus 210, 220.
I think they fought at either 85 or 205.
Yeah.
No, they had a fight at 205. Tito wasn't making 85.
Right. Yeah. Well, Frank fought up. But I don't think he weighed anywhere near the 205.
You know, he's not a big guy.
No, he's not.
So what he did is fantastic. What he did was really, really good.
Yeah. Way ahead of his time. He was great. I was a fan for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. So was I.
I have another fun question, Tony. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for the fun. We need some fun. Ray deserves
growing up, my dad, he would bring me and my brothers to watch boxing matches. And it was always, and you remember this, Ray, it was closed circuit TV. So you'd go to some theater downtown, and
Yep.
it would
Love
be
love
my
it.
dad, 3 little kids, and then like 100 other people yelling at the screen. And this is in Washington D.C.
Wow.
So
Love
yeah,
it.
man, when we first came to this country, we came to the Philippines. My dad was a huge fan of Ali, but he always called him Cassius Clay. He's like, oh, I love Cassius Clay. He's like the greatest fighter ever. So the question is this, following the heavyweight class in boxing, since from Jack Johnson to Ali to Tyson, I think we would agree that Ali's number one. And so the question I always ask is, well, who's number two? I'm assuming you agree Ali's number one. Maybe I'm making a wrong
Well,
assumption.
for different reasons, though. But we're talking about any weight class.
Oh, heavyweight. So
No, just
Oh,
heavy.
heavyweight.
Yeah,
That-
at their
no,
prime.
he's the
at their
guy.
prime.
No, he's the guy. Because look, what he did, just what he did with his footwork and the movement and the
Crazy.
jab, that was unheard of back then. Like, that was
Yeah.
just so weird. And then he really did come up with the rope-a-dope thing, which worked for him like a charm, but maybe not in the end. It probably went against him. But he did figure out if a guy, like with Foreman, he just knew he couldn't sustain any type of pace. So, yeah, no, Ali for sure. You're looking for number two?
Number 2 and 3.
In the heavyweights.
Heavyweights.
It's always hard, number 2 and 3.
I mean, I've only because I'm Italian, I got to throw Marciano in there because he was undefeated. But we'll put him 2 or 3. Who's the second guy? I don't think Tyson is the guy. I would go with we got to go way back, right?
Oh, really? So
Oh, you got to go. I go with Joe Louis.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe Louis.
Again, I got to look at what he did and the times he did it, and just that war with Germany and the pressure he had on him for even beating the crap out of Schmeling and
Right.
those guys becoming great friends. I think you got to put, he stood for something back then. And at a time when this country, wasn't too nice to African-American people.
Yep.
So I have to put him up there. I mean, Ali, I have a friend who was friends with Ali's personal photographer. I got some pictures I got to put up with Ali clowning around with Malcolm X.
Oh,
It's a
really?
black and white photo, Tony, but it's a classic, man.
That's
I got
awesome.
a couple of those pictures. It's really a classic. So, looking back, did I like Ali as a kid? Absolutely no. Joe Frazier was the guy for me. I loved him. But did I grow to appreciate Ali? Yeah, 100%. I think as I evolved and just what he stood for, and he held his ground and he came back, they probably took the best years away from his life and he still was able to do what he did. Fantastic story there. But I go with Joe Louis too. He was against a lot of racism and stuff, and he still managed to pull off what he did. I think is just a blessing. Is great.
Yeah.
And then number 3, Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson.
I think he threw Marciano in there
Are we
for
throwing
us.
Marciano out? Is Marciano out? He was
Okay.
undefeated, but I don't know if the quality of guys he was fighting was as good. But I tell you, even Tony, man, was Tony, because Tony was for a heavyweight was another guy that could box.
Yeah.
Most of these guys were just swinging and throwing, and more than physical. But Tony really ran circles around Dempsey, So
He did.
I don't know. I'd have to really look at that. But
So
I
we
go
got
with that.
Ali.
I go Ali.
Joe Louis,
Joe Louis. I'll go with Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey.
We'll keep Rocky in the top 5. How about that?
Yeah,
Let's get to the
Rocky.
top
Imagine
Anytime
asking
you're
somebody and they
undefeated.
really answer that question, Tony, like Rocky was a real fighter.
All right. Hey, Tony, Ray, we're out of time. Tony, unless you have any final thoughts or questions for Ray.
Just some closing thoughts. If you're a fan of UFC and you like fighting, you can see. Well, we can promote another show as well, right? Ray, you speak weekly on Anakin Florian, right?
Yeah.
Everybody could catch you there. And just look a little bit up of some of what Ray's accomplished. It's really pretty neat and pretty awesome. Not easy to do, and bring out 3 UFC champions, everyone, is a lot, especially from a small field and a small school. So Ray's going, I don't know if they have coaches in the Hall of Fame yet, but he's going in it if they do. So I think that's something to look forward to. That branch is coming soon. So Mr. Longo, will be an HOF, my man.
Thanks for the nice words, and thanks for not using any words I couldn't understand today. I appreciate you guys.
Hey,
You guys
thanks,
know how
Ray.
to do an interview.
Thanks, and hey, enjoy the rest of the day. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks
anytime.
for
What was
coming
the-
along,
What
my
was the
man.
word? Wait, Tony, what you used to call? What was that Genesis you used to call? What was that? Something Genesis?
What's neurogenesis?
Maybe it was it or something muscle with the muscles, maybe.
Myogenesis?
Maybe it was myogenesis, and I used to go, what about Phil Collins in Genesis? What
Oh,
about
yeah,
them?
yeah, yeah. It's got to be neurogenesis and new brain cells.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I had to get that joke in somehow. All right, guys, listen, it was a pleasure. Hey, Jose, it's good seeing you again, man. Hopefully I'll get down there soon.
Yeah, please do. We'll have to get together. Thanks again.
Awesome,
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Thanks, Ray.
Take it
All
easy, guys. Tony, I'll
All
talk to you.